Charboneau and David Lynn Miller.
Welcome to Dudes on Movies. I'm your dude Scott.
I'm your dude Dave.
And today we're discussing 1989's The Burbs, directed by Joe Dante and starring Tom Hanks and Carrie Fisher. But before we do that, let's talk about what we've been watching. Dave, what have you been watching?
I watched Liquid Sky recently.
Ah.
Good movie, and it's an avant-garde film about an alien who masks itself as a model and then invades New York's fashion and new wave culture to try and locate this drug that's released during the human orgasm.
Nice.
Yeah.
How was it?
Well, it's got its moments, and I understand why people love it. It's got a real cult around it, obviously. But just like all unconventional movies that feel like an art project, you really have to concentrate. And even when you do, you don't always catch everything. Still worth seeing, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. I watched Aki Kaurismaki's newest film called Fallen Leaves.
Okay.
I think it came out in 2023, or maybe in America it came out this year.
Yes.
But you follow two lonely characters, like a man and a woman, kind of through their day-to-day, as they're dealing with their jobs they hate and the boring happenings of everyday life and all the bullshit that comes with that. And they're struggling to make ends meet, and they have all these bumps in the road and meet each other and then try to make a relationship work, but things don't work. And then they make them work, that kind of stuff. But it's very... If you've seen Kaurismaki's other films, it's got a certain style to it. It's very kind of dry and deadpan in ways. And there's a lot of just awkward silences of people just kind of sitting there, like, looking at an empty beer, with another person. And then they say something profound. But it's got that awkwardness, but it makes it funny, too.
Okay.
It's a really charming movie, and, all these struggles are happening, but when the little wins happen, you just, cheer for it. You love it.
Cool.
So it's a great movie, everybody. I would suggest it. Fallen Leaves.
Nice, yeah.
All right, so let's talk about The Burbs, Dave. Why don't you give everyone a synopsis?
Yes, this is the Joe Dante comedy in which suburbanites suspect their unconventional neighbors who dress differently and whose houses in disrepair are up to no good.
The others?
Yes, the others. And even though it presents itself mostly as a straight-up comedy, it also sometimes blends other genres, and it trades on 80s satanic panic to comment on what it's like to live with other people's eccentricities. And I've seen it many times, and this is another conversation I've wanted to have for a long time.
Yeah, The Burbs is I don't want to say it was a childhood staple of mine or anything, but for a lot of people, it was.
It was for me.
They grew up with this. I mean, it came out 89.
Yep.
And so kids in my grade, they loved this.
Right.
And I thought it was good, but I didn't have it on tape, I guess. So,
okay. Right.
So it wasn't in my rotation. And I can see why people love it. It's a Joe Dante film, right?
Yes.
And it's Tom Hanks and a great cast all around.
Yeah.
And it's a cool, interesting idea. And I think the performances really shine in this from everybody.
I agree. Yeah, everyone is very funny. And they're also, in the dramatic moments, the few dramatic moments that there are.
Hanks really kills some of the drama in this.
You can tell there's an actor inside of him.
Uh-huh. I have specific moments here I'm going to be pointing out.
Cool, right.
But yeah, this movie, everyone I knew loved it.
Yeah.
And I think people still do.
Yes, and I put it on the schedule because I saw this movie in the theater with my friends Aaron and Steven. And then after that, we got it on tape, my family, and it went into the daily VHS rotation for a while. And there's a couple things about it that have stuck with me for many years, including a chant that's employed halfway through the movie that became a running joke with me and my siblings, and along with friends from all stages of my life. I think you and I have done it with one another. But mostly I wanted to talk about my issues with this movie's ending for many years, and I can't wait to do so.
Yeah, we're going to be gushing a lot about the greatness of it, and then at the end we're going to really poke holes in it.
Yeah, right.
We're going to be kicking it to the curb, so get ready for that, everybody.
That's right, dude.
Before we recorded, Dave and I planned a question of the week at the end of this, and our question of the week just made me really happy what Dave suggested because it confirmed how I felt about things. So we'll get there.
Yes.
We'll get there. Do you want to get into the film?
Yes. And I should say, too, that even before we got into the plot, when I was a kid, I didn't know what the title meant.
Oh yeah, I guess not. Like when you're young.
Yeah, I didn't know what the Burbs was referring to. I mean, I thought it was. I literally thought it was like a kind of creature or evil spirit.
It almost is.
Yes. It definitely
Suburbia is pretty scary.
Yes, it is. I didn't realize on that level,
Yeah, right.
But and even though, like, I think at one point Tom Hanks has a speech about like people living in the burbs, I still didn't get it when I was 11 years old.
Yeah.
Then I saw Uncle Buck, and at one point John Candy is arguing with Amy Madigan on the phone, and she goes, what's up, Buck? You got some religion out there in the burbs?
Yep.
And I still didn't understand it. I did not. It didn't make it any clearer because they don't tell you about white flight in public elementary school.
No, you don't learn about that shit.
No.
You learn about it later and realize, oh crap,
I know.
that's not good.
It's too late.
I'm gonna be living next to art now. Right. That's what you get.
Goddamn, dude. But yeah, we open on this bird's eye shot of. Well, it's from space. We come down, and it's one of these where you zoom in like Google Maps, and you end up in at street level, and you start in outer space and you just keep getting closer.
Yeah, yeah, and like as it's doing this, the music becomes kind of, it's like an organ-driven, almost like monster movie, a Frankenstein or Dracula type organ, creepy stuff, and it comes down and shows this old, decrepit house in this neighborhood. It's all falling apart, it's just an old, creepy, haunted mansion-looking thing.
Yes, and it's in the middle of a really idyllic street, so everybody else's houses look nice, and this one house is in pretty bad shape.
Yeah, and even like the yard, like Tom Hanks comes out of his house, he lives next to this house, and so the camera comes down, and Tom Hanks comes out the front door because he hears noises at the house, and we had seen like lights flashing kind of in the basement. So he comes out and he steps like right to the boundary of their yards, and his grass is like the perfect green lawn, right?
Right.
And one step further is just like dead grass, dead leaves, like twigs everywhere.
There's like tumbleweeds.
Yeah, it's like a totally different world.
Yes.
Which I love the design of that. Just the boundary line is so clearly like this is the green. This is the dead grass.
Right.
It's not like intertwined at all.
Nope.
So he tries to step into their yard, and the wind like sweeps up into the air, and there's like a tornado of leaves, and it's like the creepy music like intensifies, and he's like, oh man, like his hair's blowing, and he steps back, and it stops. Which I love. Some of the touches of absurdity in this film, because I mean that wouldn't really happen at all, like but it really signifies like how different and scary he thinks these people are.
Right. And I mean, like when you think something's happening, like that is what you're picturing, that as soon as I step over this demarcation that, all of a sudden my hair's going to be, flapping around.
Yeah, that's dangerous right there.
Right.
That's not good. And so the next morning we see like the paperboy riding his bike through the neighborhood, and it's just like the perfect busy little cul-de-sac, everyone's getting ready for work, mowing their lawn, and it's so idyllic.
And the music changes like,
oh yeah,
big time. I mean, it just goes right into, like the kind of 50s sitcom.
Yeah, I'm going to get
music.
the paper. Hey, you want some eggs, honey? That kind of thing.
Right.
Leave it to Beaver bullshit.
Yes.
And the paperboy hits him with the paper, which I liked. Tom Hanks plays Ray. And so he's out there with his coffee, and the paperboy just smokes him. Like, I would do that playing the video game Paperboy. You want to hit everybody.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, if you, I did like have rounds of Paperboy where I would do that. I would like hit the breakdancing guy.
Oh yeah.
And I'd hit the guy mowing.
The baby in the carriage.
Yes.
Yep.
But like other times, I wanted to get like the perfect score so I could get all subscribers. So I would make sure not to do all those things.
Yeah, you would try to do like a good run and then like an evil run.
Yes, that's right. And I had to take over for my friend Aaron again. I had to take over his paper route when I was a kid for like 2 weeks when his family went on vacation.
Yeah.
And man, I was a terrible paper boy.
Was it on bicycle or was
Yeah.
it okay?
Uh-huh.
I helped out my one friend who they had like it was a van, so you'd hang like out the back of the van and like toss them into the yards.
Yes.
I did that a couple times, made like $6.
Nice.
It's great.
Right. I think I made $12 from my 2 weeks of work, and like I remember I tried to do everything at once, and I popped a wheelie, and this guy Andrew, who was like I had to go to his house to get the papers. They were like, no, you can't take that many. And
Was
okay.
it like not safe?
It was
too
not
heavy?
exactly not safe because like my bike just like full on. I was sitting on it and the front wheel came up because it was weighed down with
Oh
newspapers.
my God, dude!
Yeah, right.
It's a hazardous job.
It was right.
So like, I guess $12 for 2 weeks of work. You can't afford these homes these guys are living in. That's for sure.
Exactly, dude.
But yeah, we see that we get introduced to all the neighbors in this scene. Really, like there's an old guy named Walter. He's got like a little poodle, and the poodle like runs and goes into Bruce Dern's yard and poops.
Dude, incredibly irresponsible
Yes.
dog ownership from everyone in this movie. I
Yes.
mean, yeah, Walter's dog Queenie and then Ray's dog Vince, they're both allowed to run through the neighborhood unleashed.
Yeah, God. Ray later brings Vince out to pretend to walk him, but he's really getting beers with Art and the boys. You know,
Right.
and then he just lets the dog run free.
Yeah, he takes the leash off and goes, "Go have a field day," he says. No, that's not what you do with your dog.
No, you leave the dog there with you.
Right, he's
and
just
hang
there on
out.
the leash, right.
Yeah, he wants to get pet by Ricky. Come
Yes,
on.
of course. And even though I despise Rumsfeld's threats about what he'll do to Queenie if the happens again, he's right to be mad about Walter letting her crap in his yard.
He is. He's like out there like pulling the weeds with his wife,
Yes.
Bonnie, and he's like, you know why his yard's better than ours? Because he sends his dog over here to crap in it. If I find that... God.
He yells at Walter, "If I find that piece of scumbarking rat of yours that took his last dump on my lawn," and he says he's going to find him and staple his ass shut.
Oh, that's a good one. And
it's-
Bruce Dern really delivers.
Yes. If you want someone to yell at children or animals, Bruce Dern is your man.
Yes. And in this movie, he plays Rumsfeld, and he's like a Vietnam vet type guy, and he's always wearing like some fatigues or something, or like some aviator glasses. He is a very proud member of the military.
Yes, soldiering has not stopped for him.
Yeah,
Now
and-
he's like a soldier. He's probably like a militia-man at some point.
Right,
now.
and yeah, and that's how we meet him. He comes out to raise the flag, and he steps in the dog shit. And then he goes on that rant. And the neighbor, Ricky, played by Corey Feldman, is like, "Oh no, Mr. Rumsfeld, don't step." So Corey Feldman is another like neighbor kid. He's a high schooler,
Man, that was a real. The first time I saw this movie, I had not seen like the Corey's other work between Stand By Me and now. So I hadn't seen License to Drive or Dream a Little Dream or anything like that. So I wasn't. 3 years went by before I saw Corey Feldman again.
Yeah, you still thought he was a kid.
Yes.
Yeah.
And here he was, and he looks so cool. He's got cool hair.
Oh man, he's wearing like band shirts. And,
Dude,
yeah.
everything Corey Feldman wears in this movie is awesome, especially his date outfit, like the tie-dye shirt with the silver chain and studded leather jacket.
Yeah.
He looks ready to party
Dude,
down.
it's amazing.
Yes.
I wanted that.
I know. And he's got like Vision streetwear shorts at one point. He looks so badass.
He's rad.
Yes.
Radical.
He's a rad dude.
And who else do we meet here? I don't think we meet anyone at this moment, right?
At this moment, yeah, because like we go back inside to the Peterson house, and Ray is laughing at the encounter between Walter and Rumsfeld.
Yeah, because he's a nosy neighbor, like
Yes.
all of these assholes in this cul-de-sac.
Right. He's looking at Wendy Shaw and Bruce Dern, and they're yelling at Walter. And then he's like Carrie Fisher, like kind of just is. We find out that like Carrie Fisher is Ray's. She plays Ray's wife, Carol, and Carol is pissed off because Ray has taken the week off from work, but they don't have anything planned.
Yeah.
He wants to bum around the house, and she's afraid not only that like he will be like more stressed out when he goes back to work, but also like how is he going to occupy his time?
Yeah. He's just going to get all wound up and crazy and stressed out about stuff. Mm-hmm. And they get kind of into a little argument here. And she's kind of right, but he makes a good point. He's like, I don't want to go to the lake. I don't want to like worry about hauling us up there. I just want to sit here and relax. I'll fix the barbecue. I'll do that for you.
Right,
I'll do
right.
it.
Yeah. I mean, if he can make this work, he could go
Yeah.
back to work a new man.
You can.
Yeah.
Staycations are great.
I've done them before.
I love
mean,
'em.
yeah, like I got some time off around the holidays. I was lucky enough to have like 5 days off, and I did feel good about things.
Yeah. And so he just wants to be lazy. So I understand that. Mm-hmm. But she knows him and knows that he can't do that.
Yes, because like, and I mean, it's not just Ray. It's kind of every character Tom Hanks was playing around that time.
Mm-hmm.
It's these guys with short fuses. Like he was always, at some point in every movie he was in, like yelling and screaming. Like there
Yeah.
was Turner and Hooch was like around this time
Yeah.
too, and Punchline and Money Pit. he was always just like this guy with just this temper that like he'd eventually like just go nuts on somebody.
Yeah, something snaps eventually, and then you get that frantic Tom Hanks screaming,
Yes.
you know, where he's like just on the tip of like, I don't know, his head exploding.
I know exactly.
And it's great comedy. Like
is.
it's really great comedic performances when he does that.
Oh, I know. He had it down. And this thing with the family having breakfast, I think this is when Art comes in because they hear a gunshot, and we go outside and we see Art. It has like this pellet gun, and he's stalking through neighbors' backyards trying to shoot this crow because his wife said that like the crows are too big for the bird feeder.
Yeah.
And he almost shoots Ray when Ray comes out to check on him, and they invite him in, and he starts eating all their food.
Yeah, he's going through the fridge. He's pulling out leftovers.
Man.
He's just eating the eggs that Carrie Fisher made. And it's like he lives here.
Yes, he's making himself at home.
They're talking about like the neighbors, and they're talking about how Rumsfeld stepped in the poop because that's all these people care about is what's going on in this little circle they live in. And I guess Art's wife left to go see her mother, and he's like, hell no, I'm not going up there with those people.
Yes.
I'm alone, and I'm loving it.
It's a big week for the bachelor kid, he says.
Yeah. He's the big, like, fast-talking idiot with, like, the crazy ideas.
Oh, yeah.
But he's, like, right just enough to where it blinds him to how many times he's wrong. This guy this is the guy you get into trouble with.
And, dude, and Rick Ducommun plays this role, and, like, it's
excellent.
He's so good.
Excellent.
And he does some incredible, like, eating acting in this scene. Like, it's hard to eat on camera because there's multiple takes, but, like, so you're constantly having to eat again when they call action, but I like how Ducommun doesn't care and just stuffs his face.
Yeah, he's going for it, and the whole time he's talking, he's, like, telling this ghost story about the neighbors, how their old house burnt down, and, like, and the Naps moved out mysteriously. No one, they didn't even say goodbye, you know? And all this stuff, and it's getting really, like, creepy organ music's kind of playing again. And everyone's like in kind of a spooky mood in this moment. And then their son Dave comes down and starts like tagging on things. Like, yeah, I saw them outside digging in the middle of the night. And there's a great moment when he says that, like, Dave takes a bite of an apple, but Art also takes a bite of a rib at the same time. And they're like staring at each other. It's such a funny shot. And it means nothing. It's just purely a comical moment. It's so good.
Kind of like grave diggers.
Yeah. Yeah. They both take a bite. And that
like,
rib is huge,
I know,
by
dude,
the way.
and he gets it out of the fridge. It's in some tinfoil, a big rack of ribs, and he doesn't heat it up.
It's like a cold lamb shank he's eating. It's huge.
So gross. At that at like 8:30 a.m.?
Hey, he's on vacation. His wife's away. You know, he can eat Pop-Tarts if he wants. Doesn't matter.
Pop-Tarts would be fine. You know.
Yes, it's breakfast adjacent food.
Cold ribs with pancakes. I don't think so.
I'd eat it, man.
I mean, yeah.
I'd eat cold ribs. I've had cold rib meat before. It's fine.
Okay.
Not as good as like a hot plate of ribs.
Yes.
Nowhere near.
Right.
But yeah, this whole scene is setting up like how they don't know jack shit about the neighbor, and they're making up these theories.
Yes, they never talk to the Klopeks. They don't know anything about them, and they're just speculating. And you know, it's typical stuff that, like, you know, people would engage in their neighborhoods.
Nosy
like,
neighbors.
Yes, exactly. And then there's the couple of weirdos live down the road, and we don't know what they're up to.
Right.
And so now Ray goes and gets dressed, and him and Art go out in the porch, and they're in the garage, and like Ray gets out his tools, and he wants to show him his new tools that his father-in-law just gave him, and then Art says something about going down to the deli and getting a beef sandwich, and like he just got done with
just ate everything in the fridge.
That massive breakfast. But you know, out comes one of the Klopeks.
Yeah.
The neighbors, there's a guy standing on the porch. The door opens, and like, you know, Art calls Ray over, and they're like debating about whether or not they should go say hello.
They're staring at him. The character's name is Hans, played by Courtney Gaines. He's just like looking around. The characters are so weird in this house, right? Like they don't come outside, and they're suspicious of everything, and they look like they're guilty of something. Like they're doing themselves no favors, really. Worst, like, beard, like patchy beards, worse than mine. And he's got that red hair,
Yes, and he's looking around. He sees that there's people looking at him because it's not just Art and Ray. Dave and Ricky are across the street, and they're staring. And then the Rumsfelds are out in their front yard, and so he's like, "There's 6 people with eyes on him."
Yeah,
and so he recedes back into the door.
Right. Ray and Art were arguing for so long about who should go talk to him that they missed their chance. Art starts calling Ray chicken.
Yeah.
And Ray's like, you're not calling me chicken.
Man.
Let's go over there right now.
I almost made a Scram McFly joke when we saw Courtney
exactly.
Gaines. But this is essentially the same thing. I mean, when people would call you chicken in the 80s, for whatever reason, it just awakened some hidden rage in adults. I don't know why.
It's like... Before that, it was like the double dog dare, you know?
I know.
Yeah. Oh, well, you can't back down now.
Right,
you know?
right.
Little kid bullshit. And these guys are like 40-year-old men.
I know. Come on.
So they end up going on the porch, and everyone's like watching them like, oh my God, they're going in.
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole neighborhood. It's insane. And as they're approaching, like, it almost is like a Wild Western type thing, where like the everyone's zooming in on the eyeballs, like as they watch. Like Corey Feldman's like staring at him, and it like zooms in on his face a little, and it does that with like everyone in the neighborhood. Then it zooms in on the dog, and I'm like, that's awesome.
Yes,
like little Queenie.
Yeah, little Queenie gets a zoom.
Dog.
Right,
it's so good. And they're up on the porch, and they knock on the door, and it like knocks the like the address. Like the last address sign flips over and it says 666.
Yes, it had been 669 and now it's 666.
Now it's 666. And then like something falls off the house and bees come out and attack them.
Which, okay. Now, I know I have never suffered a bee attack before.
Never got my girled?
No, I never got Thomas Jade.
Okay.
Thank God. But like, if it did happen, it wouldn't make me suspect the people whose house it came from. Like,
yeah, like this is an evil thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just some weird shit that happened.
Yeah. This house looks like it has plenty of hives around the property.
Yeah, of course.
You know?
Right.
Like termites have probably infested this house.
Mm-hmm.
Of course there's a beehive in here.
Of course, yes.
And like every time they go on the porch, like even later in the movie, someone falls through it because it's just that unkept.
Mm-hmm.
And so they like run frantically through the street screaming about bees.
And Rosefield gets out a hose and he does a pratfall first.
Yeah.
Because he wants to, he's over here, men, come to water. And
Yeah.
they run over there and he's like squirting them. And I love watching Tom Hanks roll around like while Bruce Dern is squirting him with this hose.
Yes, because it's that irate Tom Hanks.
Yes.
Just like flailing around, long arms
Oh,
and
man,
stuff. Yeah.
so good, yes.
And then Corey Feldman's just laughing his ass off at it because throughout the whole movie, he just talks about how he loves this place. Like
Right.
there's a show every night, you know.
It's his neighborhood and he's really into it.
Yeah, he just loves it. It's totally radical. It's the best.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So later that night is when Ray takes the dog out and lets it run free. So that I guess he lied to Carol, like, yeah, I'm gonna go take the dog on a walk. No, secretly he's having cigars and beers with Art and Ricky.
You know, and this thing too with like so I was watching the movie with my wife and she asked in this scene why Ricky was hanging out with Ray and Art. And
yeah.
Right. Cuz like he's having a cigarette with the adults and like it reminded me of something from my childhood. I talked about a couple episodes ago my friend Kimmy across the street.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was this other kid, Jason, across the other street, and he was essentially like Ricky.
Yeah.
He was like friendly with all the adult men in the neighborhood.
Okay.
He was older than me. Probably when he would have been like 5 years older than me. But when he was like 13 years old, he'd just be standing there with my dad and Kimmy's dad and some other dude, like in the carport smoking a cigarette and like
they're doing like a King of the Hill?
Yes. Yes. They're like, and he's one of their peers.
I don't get it.
I know.
It's strange.
I know. It was really
I
messed
understand
up.
being part of the community.
Yeah.
Like being friendly with your neighbors.
Right.
But they're out here drinking a 6-pack.
I mean,
this kid's in high school.
I know,
right?
It's really not good, and I mean, art is contributing to the delinquency of a minor for sure.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, art's crazy, right?
Yeah,
Like this guy.
yes.
Yeah. You can't trust anything this guy does. Can't believe he is married.
I know. Yeah, I know. He doesn't seem like the Marion type.
Yeah. So they're hanging out here, and they start walking down the sidewalk without the dog. Now they're walking, and they don't have a dog. Tom Hanks, good idea.
I know. Where the hell is Vince?
I don't know.
I mean, he's back in the bed with him like later when we cut to the next scene, but it's still
So
like
this
Jesus.
is a regular occurrence. Like
I
he
know.
probably goes, all right, now I'm off the leash. I'll make my rounds. I'll come back. you know?
Ridiculous.
Yeah, whatever. But Art starts telling another creepy story about, you guys remember that old drugstore, blah, 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 by the old mall? Like, oh, yeah, yeah. It was run by this guy named Skip, and one, like, really hot summer, like, he went crazy, and smells started coming from his house, and it's telling more ghost stories.
Mm-hmm.
And he says the inspector showed up, and they found he had murdered his whole family with an ice pick. Like, he just went crazy, snapped.
Yes, and that smell that was coming from Skip's place was his family. They were, the bodies were decomposing. I'm sure it's true. Those things happen.
Yes.
It's just part of. It's not just part of suburbia. It's part of I guess that's one of the reasons people were so surprised by those things happening in what were supposed to be neighborhoods where such a thing could never happen.
Yeah, we moved away from that scary shit.
Right.
They're not allowed here.
And I'm sorry, but what better cover for your psychotic behavior than
Right.
just being in a house amongst other homeowners who live a normal life.
Exactly. And so he's telling this story, and he says, maybe it's Ricky who says, but like ever since the Klopeks moved in, I smell that same thing.
Yes.
I've smelt it every day since they moved in. And then they like jump scare Ray.
It is
They're
like
ah!
because he says it very intensely and everything's very quiet, and Art is taking it very seriously, like nodding his head. Yeah, I know that smell. And like it's pretty uncool of Ricky to have done this. It's weird to have a 16-year-old bullying a 36-year-old, but it happens.
Hey, he's drunk. It's
I mean,
fine.
sure, right?
A drunk 16-year-old maybe. Hanging out with these grown-ass men, dude.
There was precedent for it in Phoenix, Arizona.
It's
it
true.
happened.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
It happens. And so Ray's pissed off because they scared him.
Mm-hmm.
So he's throwing a baby fit, I guess. And he goes home. He says he's got better things to do, like watch TV
Yes.
or something like that.
Yes, it is
And
that.
so I guess he finds his dog and goes home. But later he's like watching Jeopardy with Carrie Fisher, and they're like playing it together. People do this,
Yeah.
right? Like they answer the questions, but I think this is when Ricky has his date over, and he's like got his cool outfit on. He's like, "Hey," she's like, "Can we go to the movies or the mall or something?"
Right.
He's like, "No, this is better. The show's about to start."
Man, and look, she must really like this dude because like he's saying we're gonna stay home at my parents' house and watch The Neighborhood instead of me taking you to a movie.
I think that sounds amazing.
I don't know, man.
You know?
I
All right.
It better be a damn good show. It better like really live up to what you've told me.
True.
Because if I mean like and it does. I mean like some good stuff happens this night.
Yeah, because right on schedule, apparently, Art sneaks out. I don't know why he's sneaking out. His wife's not home. I guess he's sneaking over to the house so Carrie Fisher doesn't find
Exactly,
him.
because like he comes to the window and like he's trying to get Ray's attention, and Carol turns around. And he like ducks.
He like is in the bushes and he's knocking on the window and not even hiding or doing anything, just like looking like, hey.
I know.
And she turns and looks at him like, what the fuck are you doing, Art?
And like Ray even says, "We're trying to watch the show, Art." He like gives it away, so it's like there's no secret, dude.
Right? He might as well have just knocked on the front door, But this guy can't. He's got to be covert because there's some kind of weird thing going on that we can't let anyone know we're getting involved with.
And I mean, I guess that makes sense because he wouldn't want Carol to know that they're going to spy on the neighbors. So he has to get Ray out of the house.
But he's acting like a little kid, right?
He is. He could just knock on the door and say, "Hey, Ray, we're going to go bowling or whatever."
He's a man-child.
Yes.
All ththese guys are, right?
I mean, yes, they are.
So yeah, I guess he gets out. He does go out there, right?
Yes.
And
Rumsfeld comes over with his night vision scope.
yes, he's got his night vision, and they're spying on the Klopeks now.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, I guess like there's a weird generator sound, and all the lights come on in the basement again, and there's like smoke and lightning, and it's just like a whole Frankenstein's castle situation.
Yes, and there's a lightning rod on top of one of the turrets of the house, and like it actually strikes it. And
Yeah.
I mean,
it's the house.
yes, and like that transformer noise, that like really that high whirring, that like that even blows them back, and it's the same thing that happened in Ray's like original scene, and then after that's over, the garage door opens, and this old Pontiac comes out very slowly and drives to the curb, and Hans gets out. He gets a big trash bag from the trunk that looks like it's kind of squishy, and he puts it in one of the barrels at the curb and then starts beating it with like a hoe.
Yeah.
Look, if this is human remains, this is one hell of a way to dispose of them.
Yes.
Putting them in your garbage where anyone can get to them?
It's not very subtle either.
No.
And why drive your car out there? Like if you're just gonna if you're just gonna haul this bag out for everyone to see anyway, and then cram it in and beat it with a garden hoe, I mean, you might as well just carry it from the garage yourself.
You're right.
I mean, I guess it's pretty heavy, so maybe he didn't want to walk all the way out there.
I guess.
But
well,
still.
it's only 20 feet. I mean, I've
you can do it.
Yeah, you can make it happen.
And you draw less attention to yourself than
Probably.
like opening your garage door.
I know.
The automatic opener, and then driving your. What up? The Pontiac? That thing's not quiet.
No,
God damn.
That thing weighs 4,000 pounds.
Yeah, that's what they heard. The engine of the car starting.
It takes regular gas.
Yes. And so, this is my favorite Tom Hanks dramatic read of the movie.
Okay.
Because they're standing there like he and Art and Rumsfeld are like hiding behind bushes, like watching this all go down. And Tom Hanks just says, "I've never seen that. I've never seen anyone drive their garbage to the street then beat it with a stick. I've never seen that." And it gives me goosebumps when he does that, because I'm like, all right, this movie was silly and stuff, but the way he delivered that line made it feel like there's real stakes now. Like something bad happened.
I love how they give it time as well. Like
Yeah.
the camera is on him, and he's in the middle of the three guys, and he just says that while staring at the Klopek's house.
Yeah.
Never like averting his gaze.
And Art's not like running his mouth or
Nope.
anything. Like, yeah, it has time to breathe.
Yes, they all are feeling what Tom Hanks has like articulated in that moment. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's perfectly dramatic, and it's my favorite dramatic read of his in the movie.
Yes.
I got a comedic one later we'll get to.
Right.
But yeah, so they're like wanting to go look at the trash, but it starts raining.
Right.
And they're like, we'll look in the morning, And so they all go home, and that night Tom Hanks is looking out his window from his bedroom, and he sees the backyard of the Klopek's house. There's 3 hooded figures just digging holes. So his son was right, apparently.
Yeah. And it looks like, druids in the rain, digging up corpses.
Yes. It doesn't look like a normal thing.
No.
They're not even out there in normal clothes. They're
Right.
these hooded robes digging. And there's like it looks like there's other holes around too. They've dug up multiple things. It's just like their backyard is a mess.
Right. And then we cut to the next morning.
Dick Miller.
And Dick Miller and Robert Picardo.
Yeah, baby.
They're the garbage men.
I remembered Dick Miller, but I forgot Robert Picardo.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like, oh, hell yes, dude. And they're both, they're so great in these like tiny little roles they got. So good.
I love Robert Picardo. He's like he's like into new age stuff.
Yeah.
And he's trying to convince Dick Miller to come with him to this like seance or whatever.
Yeah,
It's
but
like,
Dick Miller just wants to go bowling.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
It's great. So they're like dumping the trash, about to dump this trash can into the trash truck, but Art's like, no. He like runs up and he grabs it and starts dumping it into the street.
Man.
And like digging through the trash.
And then here comes Rumsfeld, with the same thing, with half his face with shaving cream. He gets in the compactor too, and they're just throwing trash all over the place.
They're in the back of the garbage truck.
Yes.
Digging through it. And Robert Picardo's like, well, technically, like, once the trash is on the street, it's public domain. And like
Yes.
Dick Miller's like, shut the hell up.
Exactly.
Like, they're in the garbage truck.
He's like talking about like his citizens' rights to
Yes.
go through his garbage.
And Dick Miller's just like, they're in the trash. Can they get out?
Right. Oh man, and there's this like, right before Ray comes out to join them, we cut to Carrie Fisher on like picking up a phone from like it's the wall phone.
Yeah.
And Tom Hanks comes over and he grabs it like really fiercely and goes, "Who are you calling?" And it's like it's a little bit too mean. And,
Yeah.
And like she's like, I'm calling so and so to get them to open up the cabin. He's like, "No, Carol, I don't want to go." And then they have this big screaming match.
Yeah, like, I'm taking David and we're going up to the lake without you.
Right.
And he's like, "Oh, fine, I'll just stay here." Yeah. And David comes down while they're arguing, and he's like, "Hey, Art and Rumsfeld are in the trash or something." And he's like, "Will you stop? Your mom and I are trying to have a conversation." The frantic Tom Hanks. And then he's like, "Wait, what?"
I know. He really does a great job of the wait what, because it's a perfect pause.
Yeah. And I love how he says we're having a conversation.
Yes.
They're just yelling at each other.
They're just screaming, and it's all bullshit. And like I like watching Tom Hanks sprint out there in his robe.
Oh, man, it's great. And then they can't find anything, and they're like, they must have swapped the bag in the middle of the night, you know, like that. And then Tom Hanks reveals to him, like, "Hey, I saw them digging last night. They must have pulled the body out and buried it in the backyard." And Art's like, "Yes, I know. I told you they're ghouls." It's like ghouls.
And I love watching Bruce Dern like try to calm everybody down because he doesn't want like Dick Miller and Robert Picardo to hear it.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
yeah.
and eventually like Ricky even reveals it, buried him in the backyard.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And that's when the garbage men went out of here. And Wendy Shaw comes out. She's Rumsfeld's wife.
Yeah, Bonnie.
Bonnie. And she tends to wear like revealing clothing.
Yeah, skimpy outfits, and Ricky is very entranced by it.
Exactly, as we all are.
No
it's
tan
pretty
lines
good.
this summer, Miss. Yeah. Oh,
Why
man.
would you say that right in front of like both to her? She's a married woman, and also in front of her husband. No tan lines.
I think he says it for a couple reasons. I mean, he wants to flirt with her, but he also wants to piss off Mr. Rumsfeld.
I can't believe that like Rumsfeld doesn't immediately run over there and just start choking the life out of his kid.
But like the way they yell at he yells at him throughout the whole movie.
He
Like
does.
Corey Feldman just finds it so humorous. He loves it. He loves being a shithead to this guy.
He does. That's true. But she's holding Queenie, and Queenie is like he's just a little white poodle, and she looks dirty, and she's like, "Hey, you know, you're shaking, you're all wet," and she realizes she's been out in the rain, and they don't know where Walter is, so
Yeah.
they all go to Walter's house, and they're like knocking on the door, and you know he's not answering, and the door opens up, and it's Rumsfeld. He busted a window to get into the house.
Yeah, he like did like a Tom Cruise like Mission Impossible plexiglass like suction cup to get
He
it
did.
off.
Yes.
I guess because he's got every operational equipment you need. Like,
all
in
the
his
stuff
house.
that all the stuff that was left over from Nam, he still has all that
Yeah.
shit.
So I guess he broke in.
Yeah.
And now they're all in Walter's house looking around, and they don't really see anything too suspicious, but they notice a few things like they think are weird, I guess.
Yeah, the TV is on and the chair's
Yeah.
overturned, which
Yeah.
Rumsfeld said that's signs of a struggle.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've used that there are signs of a struggle here my whole life now. Every
It's
time
a
I see
classic
like
line.
exactly,
It's a good one.
Yes.
It's very useful in lots of situations. But yeah, so they're snooping around the house, and Art starts going through the fridge and stuff.
Yep.
Of course.
Naturally.
And so they find Ray's toupee, or not Ray, they find Walter's toupee on the counter. Like Ray found it.
Bonnie went into the kitchen to feed the dog, and she found it because she
Oh,
starts
yeah.
screaming
She
because
thinks it's a
she
rat.
thinks it's a rat, and they all run in there, and they're like, "Oh no, it's just this. It's this hairpiece that's sitting on the oven." I mean, I would suspect it too if I saw the things that I saw
like
in
the
house.
circumstantial evidence
Yeah.
really points to something happened.
Yes.
The dog this is his prized dog, right?
He's
Like,
always like holding her
clean and babied
uh-huh.
and like beautiful, and now it's filthy. It's been out in the rain all night.
Right.
And Walter's gone. The chair's overturned. Maybe we call the cops right now.
Right, because I mean, you know, instead, well, I love this one moment of comedy is right after like that Bruce Dern has his monologue there. Like Art has this plate of cookies, and he's like, "Hey guys, look what I found!" And then like the door slams open, Corey Feldman busts through it, and it all the cookies are on the floor.
they like the plate shatters and the
Yes.
cookies are everywhere.
I don't know why I got such a huge laugh out of that on this viewing, but I was just like, oh man, that's a great
Yeah, I
joke.
thought it was awesome too.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, I think it's Ray. He's like, all right, let's get the hell. What are we doing here? We're breaking and entering. We're going to go to jail. Like, let's get out of here.
I
Come
love
on.
that that's the breaking point for him. He's just
Yeah.
like, okay, that's it. You just broke the plate of cookies. Fuck this.
Yeah.
We're out of here.
Yeah, like we just broke into this guy's house and like are destroying it. Let's get out of here.
And he's right. If I was gone and like my dog was, didn't look like she was cared for or whatever, I mean, yeah, I would hope that my neighbors would take her in.
Yeah.
That's something cool. I would hope they wouldn't go through my house and like break a window to get in and like
Exactly.
rifle my stuff.
Right. And then, so Tom Hanks takes Queenie with him to his house. He leaves a note for Walter. He puts
Right.
it in the front door like, I have your dog is all
Right.
he writes on it. And then he also has the toupee in his hand still, so he like tucks it through the mail slot. Which is a funny touch.
I love how it comes out of his pocket too, because he's wearing those like he looks like he's going boating. It's that weird 80s dad clothes
Yeah.
that actually like young men wear today.
It's what he would wear if he went to the lake.
Yes.
But he's not.
Yes.
So yeah, I have your dog.
Right.
And then later that night, I guess Carrie Fisher is looking for Ray and they can't find him. He's locked himself in the basement with Art and they're looking at Satanist books.
Dude, I mean, for some reason, like, Art somehow has this large leather-bound first edition of the theory and practice of demonology. I mean,
It's so good. He's like turning the pages. He's like, look at this, Art. Look, there's the incubus and the succubus.
he just had this in his house.
Yeah.
Because that's not something you went down to the corner store and picked up.
Yeah, this is, yeah,
Yes.
it's not a normal pickup.
Right.
This is a specialty item.
Right. And this is where the at one point he's like Art is trying to convince Ray that the Klopeks are Satanists.
Yeah.
And Ray puts his fingers in his ears and starts doing this chant. He goes, I'm not going to listen to this. I'm not going to hear this now. And Art goes, Ray, you're chanting. Look, unconscious chanting. I want to kill everyone. Satan is good. Satan is our pal. Which I have chanted, I want to kill everyone. Satan is good. Satan is our pal for going on 36 years now.
Yeah.
It's just so goddamn great.
It is. It's hilarious.
Yes.
And Art's obliviousness to how Tom Hanks just wants nothing to do with this. He just keeps pressing. Uh-huh. He's like, wait, you're chanting now. He's not listening to what Tom Hanks is saying. He's saying, Art, shut the fuck up, basically.
Right.
But he's not. He's like, oh my God, chanting. It's happening. They've gotten him. Yeah. It's so ridiculous. And it's great because he's like, we got to go over there. We got to get equipment. We need garlic. We need some holy water. We can get a couple gallons of holy water. My cousin's a priest. He can get us a deal.
He can get us a deal.
He can get us a deal. Like it's a used car.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's a great performance. I love him. He's so good as Art in this movie, dude.
And then we go to then like the Peterson's bedroom, and Carol has now the big book, and she's reading it in bed, and she's just shaking her head like and like
She's like, great, this is your relaxing vacation.
right.
Because he says something about how they're sacrificing Walter to like Beelzebub or something.
She like essentially says that, and like asks Ray to corroborate it. Is that what's going on?
Yeah.
He goes, that's one of the theories. Yes.
Jeez. Oh man. So she's really like at wit's end with this bullshit.
I mean, she has like at this point, she isn't like going off on him yet, but she will, because like any more of this, it's gonna break.
Yeah. So now he has a nightmare.
Yeah, he watches like he's flipping channels, and like he sees like a horror movies on every station.
Yeah, every station is playing like a classic like violent horror film.
Oh, dude. I mean, like there's the one there's the scene from The Exorcist. There's
Texas Chainsaw.
Texas Chainsaw 2.
Yeah.
And it's weird that they use that clip, because I think that's where like Stretch gets away.
It might be.
Yeah. And then there's this one, I can't believe I didn't write it down, but I finally found out what it was. It's like,
is it like Haxon or something?
It's not. It's a movie from 1975 with Warren Oates and Peter Fonda, where they find like a satanic cult in Texas. I cannot goddamn believe I didn't write that down.
All right.
But it's like the last clip he watches, and it's pretty intense. I mean, like it's a woman like being sacrificed in a satanic fire, and like they're screaming, and then eventually he falls asleep, and he has this nightmare, like you said.
He like wakes up and Carol's gone. We don't know it's a nightmare yet, right? So he wakes up in the middle of the night. Carol's not in the bed, but the Satanist book is there still.
Right.
And he's like, Carol? Like, and he gets up and starts looking around. And he comes down the stairs, and when he gets to the landing, a giant chainsaw blade like comes tearing through the wall, just like the film he watched. But he doesn't really react like he's scared, which I think is interesting.
I know. He just watches it happen.
Yeah. And then that happens, and then it kind of fades into like we hear Carol's voice going, Ray. And it like we fade into Carrie Fisher like on some balcony with like fog and smoke, and she's in like this silky white nightgown. She's like, Ray, all spooky.
Yeah.
It's nice of you to invite the new neighbors over for a barbecue. And then it like shows Tom Hanks being carried by like Satanists in robes.
Yes.
And he's being put on a giant Weber grill.
And they're all standing around it, and there's like mist and smoke around it, and then you hear this like kind of this blade going, and Art comes out, and he's dressed like Skip.
Yeah, the guy who murdered his family with the ice pick.
Yep, and he's carrying like he's got a paper hat on because I mean like Skip had been the town's soda jerk.
Yeah,
and there's like blood all over his smock, and he asks, who ordered the blood shake? Ha ha ha.
Hey, it's just me, Art. It's great.
Right.
And then like Dick Miller's there, like trying to put the body in the trash can or something.
Yes,
like
because
that.
like there's a trash can with Walter and Queenie, and Walter is standing there like with an axe in his head, and Queenie has a very small axe in hers.
I've never seen that.
Yeah.
Oh
man. And then Dick Miller has like some joke. Hey, I bet that hurts, huh?
It's pretty good. Yeah, and then Tom Hanks is screaming like he's tied with like all his arms out and his legs out, and one of the Satanists like comes over his head and says like, hey, mind your own business, and then stabs him.
Yes, and it's the guy he saw earlier when he was putting the note in Walter's house about like how he's got Queenie. He looked over and he saw one of the Klopeks.
Oh, Reuben.
Reuben,
Yeah.
yes. And he was like, hey, Mr. Klopek, hi. And the guy ignored him. It's that same guy. He's now here, and he's like, he stabs him to death while he's on the grill.
Yep, and then that's the end of the nightmare. He wakes up.
Right, we cut to Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. It's so weird that eventually Tom Hanks would play this role.
Oh my gosh, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I thought it was a perfect juxtaposition of his insanity and the nightmare. Just a peaceful Mr. Rogers,
Yes. Right.
Okay, Dave, let's take a quick break, and we'll come back and we'll find out what happens next.
Yes.
It's finally here, Dave. The Dudes on Movies merch store is live.
Holy God, everybody. We now have apparel and other swag with our names and logo on it.
That's right, dudes. T-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, mugs, stickers, and that's about it for the moment, but still, it's a lot of what you want.
Yes, and what better way to tell the world about your favorite podcast than to walk around town repping our names? For the shirts, the store even allows you to pick your colors so you can make it in your own style.
Well, how about that? So if you guys want to support us, please head over to dudesonmovies.com/merch. We'd really appreciate it. Hey dudes, we know you like the show, so if you want more of what you like, please head over to our Instagram and Facebook accounts where we post additional stuff about the movies we cover.
That's right, everybody, and even though we've been the most active on Instagram and Facebook, we've also recently started doing a lot more with TikTok and Blue Sky. And our last 20 episodes have also been uploaded to our YouTube channel.
Yes, and along with the episodes on YouTube, we've also done some supplemental videos, and we plan to do a lot more soon. So please go to any of these accounts to hang out with us, and as always, thank you so much for listening. All right, we're back from the break, and Tom Hanks has woken from his nightmare, and we're going to see what happens the next day.
Yes.
It doesn't look good for Tom Hanks because his wife is fed up.
Yes, and like Ray is like out on the balcony after he watches Mr. Rogers. There's like a widow's walk outside of his bedroom.
Yeah.
And he's up there, and like Art and Rumsfeld come walking up, and they want to like have him come down because they got some new dirt on. They got a new plan for the Klopeks. And like they're saying, hey, come down. And Ray like tries to signal to them, hey, I can't, and he goes like something about his like big, does like a phone motion, like telling him to call him because he knows that Carol's nearby.
Yeah.
And she comes out and she essentially tells them, like politely at first, boys, you have to go home.
Yeah.
Because she says Ray cannot go outside again until he resembles the man I married.
And then Art says, we don't have that kind of time.
I love her firm stance with him.
Yeah.
I believe I have given you my answer.
Yeah. She's just like the mom telling the boys to go play.
That's right.
You know, it's great.
And they do kind of like, they walk off and they look like,
Yeah.
11-year-olds.
They do. They're like kicking the dirt. Like,
Yes.
oh, man.
Uh-huh.
Like, Ray can't play.
Yes.
You know, let's go. And it's shot that way, too,
is.
deliberately, I think. And it's just really funny to see Bruce Dern down there and Rick. How do you say his last? I always mess. Rick
Rick Ducommun. Mm-hmm.
And they're just down there pouting because
Yep.
Ray can't come and play. It's
And
good.
like Bruce Dern, this is as like fatigued out as he's ever been. I mean, like at this point, he's like wearing full like his old army.
It's a full issue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
He's
And-
ready for this operation.
Right. It's a tactical uniform he's got on, and it's just
Yeah.
for them to go over and do a doorbell ditch with this note.
God.
They go over to the Klopex. It's Art and Rumsfeld. They walk up there and they put this note under the door, and they like do the doorbell at the same time. They ring at the same time, and then they beat cheeks out of there.
Yeah. Ugh.
And the
They
door
ring the door. Like, I love when they ring the doorbell together. Like, they
Yes.
grab each other's hand and put their fingers on the doorbell together.
Like-
it's so stupid.
I mean, I know.
Just someone press it. They're so childish, right? And they also fell through the floor here, too. I think Bruce Dern or someone does.
The falling to the floor happens later.
Oh, that's later. That's
Yes,
right. Okay,
right.
you're right.
But when they get out of there, we cut to Ray. He's in the backyard at his house, and he's taking a nap. He's in like this Barca-lounger. And like Vince is over by the fence, he's digging stuff. And Art comes over and starts like frantically telling him the story. Hey, Ray, I just got to tell me and Rumsfeld, we put a note on the door. Hey, we flushed him out. And Ray gets upset. He starts to go off like in the Tom Hanks fashion, just like, frantic. Oh my God, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And he's pissed off because Ruben Klopek had seen Ray put a note through someone's mail slot. So if they did the same thing, he's afraid now that the Klopeks are going to think he did it.
They're gonna suspect me.
Yes.
And so he's pissed off at Art for that.
And the note was kind of threatening.
I know what you did.
I know what you did. You don't just put that on a note to your neighbor, even if you do think they're murderers.
And Art is like defending it. He's like, sometimes you just got to give him a little jab. Like, Jesus, people.
God damn it, dude.
You've never even talked to these people. You've never even seen them.
Yes.
And so, like, the dog is, like, wanting to play with them. He's got, like, a stick or something, and Art grabs it to throw it, and it's a giant femur.
Yes.
It's a human bone.
The first time he, like, doesn't notice, he goes, oh, yeah, good boy, Vince. And he, go get it.
Yeah, and the audience almost can miss it if they're not paying attention,
Yes.
right? Because it's so casual.
But then Vince brings it back, and it is a giant human bone. There's a great comedic moment where they're walking toward the fence because like they both realize that like Vince dug this up from the Klopek's yard.
Yeah.
And Art says, Ray, this is Walter, and like there's this snap zoom that goes in and out, and they're just screaming
on their faces,
Yes.
just in, out, in, out.
Great.
Tom Hanks screaming to the sky, Art staring at that bone.
I know, and
Yeah.
I love how Hanks' scream continues after the music stops. He's just going, ah!
It's so good. And at this point, they see one of the Klopeks throw a wad of paper into Ray's yard over the fence.
Yep.
It's the note. They return the note.
And I mean, look, Ray was right.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
for a couple of reasons, like you can't just write threatening letters to your neighbors. That's you can't do that. But also, like he could have checked with Ray first before him and Rumsfeld could have checked with Ray first before they were going to do this plan. Because maybe Ray could have talked them out of it. Hey guys, let's not do this.
Right, and I think they were trying to get Ray. Right,
They were trying to get him there,
but he was grounded, so he couldn't go out.
So at this point now, Carol's had enough. And
oh my God, because I think Tom Hanks runs into the house, but
Yes.
she opens the screen door and hits him.
Yes.
and she's like, I'm done with this bullshit.
I know, because he picks up like 2 beer cans and just crushes them, and she's like,
Oh,
okay.
I love the beer can crushing. She's like, you feel better now?
You feel better now? Yes.
And Tom Hanks grabs him and squeezes him as hard as he can, but like he's squeezing so forcefully that like his arms are moving around in weird ways too. Like he's twisting them around. Yes. It's so good.
Because he's trying to squeeze through the can. It's not enough to smash him. He wants his fingers to get through that metal. Yes. And, they have a meeting in the Petersons' living room. It's Rumsfeld, Bonnie, Carol, Ray, and Art. And Carol makes this speech about, look, we need to go over there and talk to them. Like, be neighborly.
Yeah, her and Bonnie are like, you freaking idiots.
Exactly, yes.
We should have done this a month ago. Let's go.
Right.
And then they all march over there.
And she tells Art, and you're not invited.
Yeah, Art's not invited. Because he's the biggest idiot of them all, right?
I know. He would not contribute to this what they're trying to do here.
Yeah. Ray and Rumsfeld are like grounded somewhat,
They
right?
are, yes.
Art is just on another planet.
Right. So they file over there, and I love the shot of Bruce Dern carrying the brownies. He's carrying it like a waiter in a French restaurant would.
Yeah, it's like up over his shoulder.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he gets up on the porch, and this is where he falls in. He takes one step. He gets, like, his one boot gets caught in there, and the plate goes down. You hear Bonnie go, oh! And he goes, oh, there go the goddamn brownies.
It's great. And, like, as this is happening, Hans answers the door.
Yes.
And Carrie Fisher's trying to, like, nice talk to him with the neighbor. Oh, hey, it's Carol. I'm your neighbor, you know? We wanted to introduce ourselves. And he's just, like, yelling about the brownies while this is happening. He's, like, knee-deep in their front porch.
He picks it up, and he puts them back on the plate, and there's all this crap all over. He goes, here you go, Sonny. A little something for the old sweet tooth.
And they kind of, like, force themselves into the house.
They don't wait for him to give... to say yes.
Right.
Like, she just, like, she grabs Bonnie's hand and just goes in.
Yeah, but she's like, we're going in.
Right.
It was right for them to come introduce themselves. Wrong for you to force yourself into this house.
He did not say come in.
Yes.
This is, and it works the same as, like, the vampire's curse.
Exactly. You're not allowed.
Right.
Yeah, so they're in there. Everyone's in there now. And except for Art. Art is snooping around the back of the house.
He's got Ricky and Dave out there, and they're helping him. He's got, like, his bowling outfit on, and he's going to go, like, do something. I don't even know what he's up to.
He's going to see what's happening. He's not invited. I got to know what's going on.
Right. So he goes into their backyard, and, like, they're at one point, like, he's supposed to have a bunch of tools because he's going to do some digging. He's going to, like, try to break into the basement, and, like, they throw the bag of tools over.
Yeah.
And at one point, like, I really like the way that pickaxe, like, flies perfectly over the fence.
Yeah.
If that happened for real, it would have been a kill shot and Art would be dead. Because, like, it comes over just, like, it looks, like, weaponized.
Yeah.
And you hear it, like, hit him in the back of the neck. I mean, that would do some damage.
Yeah, big clud.
Right.
Yeah. Corey Feldman was probably trying to kill him. Ricky, like, is just like, these neighbors, it doesn't matter what happens here. Like, this is insane.
Ricky was trying
I could get away with a murder in this neighborhood.
That's probably true. Yeah.
But, yeah, so they're all in the house now, and the inside is just like the outside, basically.
Right.
It's run down, cobwebs everywhere. It hasn't been kept up at all.
It's all this original oak. I mean, it looks very outdated. It looks like a 1920s living room.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be a modern house. And there's the most uncomfortable silence. And it's just, all you hear is, like, kind of, like, there's a clock on the wall.
Yeah.
And throughout this whole thing, Ruben Klopek is played by this guy, Brother Theodore.
Yeah, I think he was like an old comedian or something.
Yes, and he was a monologuist too. He was just like this guy who would tell stories, and he survived the Holocaust. I mean, he was, like, imprisoned at Dachau, and he is fantastic in this movie. I mean, like, I love watching him never take his eyes off Tom Hanks. He doesn't blink either. He's staring at him the whole time. Utter contempt.
I love him. And he's just no bullshit.
Right.
He knows these people are here and he hates them.
Yes.
And he doesn't want them here.
Right.
And the whole time Bruce Dern is, like, pressing them, like all this stuff, like talking about how they're digging and like there's weird sound.
Rumsfeld gets really hostile with Ruben.
Yeah.
And he says, yeah, we're all here, all except Walter.
Ooh.
The old guy lives down the street. We don't know where the hell he is.
Yeah.
Like implying,
where the hell he is.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Implying that he's been kidnapped.
And that's what he does the whole time they're in
Yes.
here. And he's also like snooping around a little bit, like looking at like photos and furniture, and like I guess he's looking for secret passages.
Yes, and he pulls some of the wallpaper off. He
Oh
starts
my
to like
God.
rip it off. And,
Yes.
like destroying their property.
And the whole time, yeah, like Carrie Fisher and Bonnie are trying to small talk about the
Yes.
neighborhood and stuff.
Hans comes in with refreshments, and it's pretzels and sardines.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a bit rich of Carol to do what she does next. This is my least favorite Carol moment.
Okay.
Because like Bonnie and Carol both accept the pretzels, but they don't want the sardines. And Hans walks over to Tom Hanks and offers sardine, and Carol looks at Ray and nods her head like, yeah, you should take one.
Oh, come on.
That is, I'm sorry, Carol. You refused it, and then you're expecting him to do this? That sucks.
And he does.
And he does. He puts a sardine, he puts a little fish on top of a pretzel and starts to chomp on it.
It doesn't sound like the worst thing ever.
So I like anchovies a lot.
Yeah, but I'm not a sardine guy. I'll tell you that.
Not the kind that you just get off the store,
Like the
grocery
can?
store shelf in
Yeah.
the can. That is gross.
Yes.
But like, yeah, salty fish, very small.
On a pretzel?
Yeah, pretty good.
There you go.
Stuff.
Good
but,
eating.
Right, but whatever the hell this is, no.
It doesn't look appetizing
No.
at all. And that plate's probably dirty from 100 years ago.
It
so-
probably is, yes. And there's great sardine foley as he takes it out of the can. It's like that just really
yeah, that
squishing
gloopy sound.
Yes,
Yeah.
gross.
Yeah, and he eats it, and I think like a minute goes by, then all of a sudden he's like,
yeah.
like he reacts to it.
This really bizarre noise. It comes from Tom Hanks. It's like it's like he wants to sneeze, but it's not coming out. But like you can like think about sardine bits coming through his nostrils.
Oh, no.
It's so gross. And he picks up this like wadded newspaper and just like kind of blows his nose into it, and I guess that relieves him.
I guess so. So at this point, the other member of the Klopeks comes up the stairs from the basement, Dr. Klopek.
Yes.
And it's the creepy organ music starts playing, and there's shadow and footsteps, and it's very intense. And then out walks Henry Gibson, the shortest man who has never been young.
Dude, okay. I looked up his age. In Nashville, he would have been 40.
And he still looked like he was
He
60.
looked exactly like he does in this movie.
Yeah.
40 years old.
Dang.
I mean, yeah. He's just like Wilford Brimley. He was born an old man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like he has real presence.
He does. He definitely does.
Because he's a great actor. And like he's excellent in this role as Dr. Werner Klopek.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole scene changes when he comes in.
Right. We have guests.
Yes.
It becomes more polite.
Uh-huh.
The atmosphere has kind of lifted.
Right.
They're serving tea now, and they're small talking, and it's still strange, right?
Yes.
They're in the house is still very strange.
Right.
It doesn't fit with the neighborhood or the times. Like, actually, if they moved in a month ago, the neighbors before, I'm assuming, were just as much like yuppie assholes as the rest of these guys. The house wouldn't look like this.
Well, I mean, they said that the Knapps were an old couple.
Okay.
So
okay.
that might have explained why the decor is the way
That's
it
right.
is.
So it's just their old crap. And,
Yes.
And it's been a few months, and they
Right.
haven't cleaned anything. Okay,
Yes.
that makes sense.
And they now have like a bunch of lit candles in the middle of this big table, and Henry Gibson as Dr. Klopek is presiding over. He's now hosting and entertaining everyone.
Yeah.
And he's got like a little snuff box full of Sweet and Low that he uses. He gets it out of his jacket and he starts to put it in his coffee, and everybody's like, oh, because it looks like he's got some white powder, and he goes, oh, sugar substitute, and he offers it
Yeah.
to everybody else. This is where he keeps his sugar.
Yeah, that stuff, I mean, like, in his pocket, right? Like, that's an old person type of thing.
It is, very much so. That is old world.
But these people are very different from the rest of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's true. But from this scene, it feels like everything they've suspected, they've just been dead wrong about.
Right.
These are normal people. They're just different from you, and they want to be left alone.
Yeah, because like Dr. Klopek is a very charming guy, and it turns out he's also a painter. He's a physician and an excellent painter. That painting that like Rumsfeld is trying to figure out, it's really nice. It's like a surgical procedure, almost like an operating theater, and it looks like something that David Cronenberg would have painted.
Yeah.
It's kind of got like a Dead Ringers feel to it.
Yeah, there's like a blood vial kind of hanging there and stuff. Yeah.
It's a really cool painting.
Rumsfeld keeps like turning it upside down, and then like
Yes.
Klopek keeps turning it back over.
Right.
He's like, all right, let's cut the crap, Klopek. What's going on in the cellar?
What's that weird goddamn noise we got coming out of this place?
He's done with being nice. Like, so Bruce Dern is just like, all right, I'm coming out with it. What the hell's going on down there?
What do you got in the cellar, Herr Klopek? Yeah.
Oh man! And then Tom Hanks runs towards the basement and opens the door, and a giant dog comes barreling out of the basement.
It's a Great Dane.
It's huge.
And it starts running, and it goes outside, and it starts to attack Art.
Yeah, because Art's still snooping around the backyard, and they had let him out loose, and now Art is being chased.
Right.
Yeah. That's what you get, Art.
Oh, totally,
Get
man.
out of their freaking yard.
Exactly. Get out of these people's stuff.
Yeah, at least they barged through an open door.
Yes.
You know, you snuck on the property.
Right.
So after this, they kind of all leave, and they're debriefing back at, I guess it's Ray's house.
Right.
And Art says they're clean. Not Art. Ray says they're clean.
Ray says they're clean.
Yeah, because Art and Rumsfeld are still like, oh, something's going on in
Right.
there. I know it. And Ray is silent during the scene, and then like Carol and Bonnie are arguing against him. No, they're just normal people. You guys are insane. And Ray stops everyone from arguing, and he's like, Carol, let me talk to the boys for a minute. I'll calm them down, like with all this nonsense. And she's like, okay, sweetie. And, like they kiss, and he takes Rumsfeld and Art into like the den or whatever. And they're all teasing him like, oh, you're all going to do what the wife says, are you? Huh? You're pussy whipped is what they tell him.
I'm like, you totally pussy whipped or what?
Yeah. And so these grown men are teasing him. Like, they're calling him chicken. God, these guys are kids, man. They're children, right?
I know.
And so what Ray does in this moment, he pulls Walter's toupee out of his pocket, which we had seen him put through the mail slot earlier.
Right.
And they're like... He tells them, hey, I found this in their house. And I had put it into Walter's house after we had left. So that means someone went in and got it.
Right.
And it was amongst magazines with Walter's name.
And Ray is totally now convinced that they murdered their neighbor.
And I think as an audience, too, we're like, well, that's the smoking gun right there.
Of course.
Like, they went back into Walter's house and took the toupee and the magazines. Why would you do that?
Right.
Which, I can't think of a good reason except maybe, unless you're a good neighbor and you have some kind of agreement or talk to Walter and we're going to do this, go get his stuff for him or something, which obviously is not the case in this movie, right?
Right.
I can't see any other reason you would go over there.
To get the toupee.
Right, exactly.
I mean, that is, even if you were told to go collect the guy's mail, why would you steal the hair?
Right. Let's say like Rumsfeld and Walter were best friends or something.
Yeah.
Be like, hey, Rumsfeld, I'm over here at the hospital or whatever. Can you get my toupee and those magazines and bring them up for me?
Exactly.
Which is weird to say, but you know what? These guys don't leave without their toupee.
I mean, dude, okay, if this ever happens with you and I call you and say, Scott, can you go get my wig for me?
If you ever had a toupee, Dave, I don't know what I'd do.
We'd probably have a different conversation.
We'd have a different story happening there. I can see me going with the toupee before you go with
Probably,
the toupee.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, this is it. They are doing something fishy here.
Yeah.
There is no doubt about it. And Ray says something great like, nobody knocks off an old man in my neighborhood and gets away with it.
And he's just like staring off into like it's
there's
great.
a close-up on Tom Hanks
Yes.
with like Art and Rumsfeld in the background. And they're all very serious.
Yep.
Yeah, he's like, the next morning when that car leaves, I'm going over that fence and I'm not coming back till I find a dead body.
Whew.
All right, Tom Hanks.
All right, let's go.
Once again, a great dramatic read for him.
Yeah.
And the dialogue is not it's not like extremely dramatic stuff. It's delivered dramatically, but it's still slightly comedic because he's like, I'm going to sneak into their house and find a dead body.
Right, and we know we're watching a comedy, and also the music cues also tell you. I mean, and also just the context around it. I mean, like, we're still it's a black comedy.
Right, yeah, and like a lot of the shots and stuff, I think, throw back to old monster movies.
Yes.
And so like the framing they use and the setups, the close up, and so we now know the next day something's going down.
Right.
So we cut to the next day, and Carol and David are in their car. They're going to leave and go see her sister or do something, and Ray's going to stay home. He's going to go golfing with Art, and it's going to be nice and relaxing. No more of this nonsense, you know. And Carol's like, why do I suspect something's about to happen?
Yes, because like
she's not an idiot.
Exactly. Carol is going to see her sister, and it was Ray's idea.
Yeah. Ray wants her to leave.
Right.
And she knows something's up.
And like, I mean, I think at this point, if you ask your husband, why do I get the sense you're trying to get rid of me? Then, don't go. You know, just stick around. Because, yes, shit's going down.
Yeah, it's totally obvious, right? And then as she's backing out, Art, like, walks across the lawn, and he's wearing, like, a full golfer's uniform.
It's like a Dorf on golf
with
outfit.
Like, the Scottish hat and everything.
He's got the tam o' shanter.
Yeah, dude. He's like, yeah, you see, I got my new club here. I got my, all right, have a good time. We're going to go to green. Okay, let's go, Ray. It's so stupid. It's so obvious.
I mean, she's not even like down the street yet, and they like drop the facade, and he pulls off the hat and the glove, and it's like, okay, guys, wait just a moment.
Just wait a minute.
Right.
Give it 5 minutes. She might turn around.
I know.
Maybe she forgot something.
That always happens.
Dude.
Yes.
But Art is such an idiot. Like, I don't know why he thought this would be a good idea.
Right.
It's so suspicious. But I guess Art is such an idiot.
Yeah, I mean,
you might think he'd do that.
Yeah, and the way the plan starts, like at this point now, Bruce Dern had been wearing like underclothes for the military. It was like the OD green T-shirt and the camouflage pants. Now he's fully outfitted in like what he wore in Vietnam.
Oh yeah, he's got the jacket. He's got like a vest, everything.
His beret is on. Yes. Yeah. And he's heavily armed. Of course, he's got like a big assault rifle.
Dude.
And he's also got like all this equipment, including this like, you know, this gigantic walkie-talkie. And they're gonna. Art is going to climb up the telephone pole and like take out the Klopex alarm system.
Yeah.
I have no idea. Well, he's gonna cut power lines.
Like he climbs the line, like the tower, like the big pole.
Yes.
He climbs up where the transformer is and everything. And they even tell him, like, you know, if you don't do the right thing, you're dead, right? He's like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. Okay, Art, we've seen you in this movie. This is not going to turn out well.
No, exactly. And dude, I have seen linemen die. You know, like it just you know when I mean, not I wasn't live there for it. No, I wasn't there for it.
Like you're always hanging out, just looking. Like, all right, is it going to happen?
No, okay. I was not like sitting there, but like. I remember a bunch of times when I was a kid, people just like, you know, guys, professionals up there, like, and stuff goes wrong.
Of course. Those lines are no joke. So Art goes up there with some like tree trimmers to clip it.
They're not insulated. First, he drops his map because he has like a diagram of what he's supposed to be doing, and he just drops it, and he just decides,
proceeds.
Proceeds. Okay,
I got a 50-50
I'll cut this
chance.
one.
I'll cut one of these.
And he falls off the telephone pole into a shed. And this happened to me. Like, I did that same fall.
Really?
Yes, I fell off my friend's roof through the shed and, like, back first through the top of it. And, like, there was all this fiberglass in my
Holy crap.
skin. It was, oh, man, it was bad.
Were you just, like, goofing around on a roof?
Yes.
Man.
Yeah. Doing a bunch of dumb kid stuff. And I just fell off.
Yeah. But were you okay? Did you break anything?
Somehow I was okay. Like, I didn't break any bones. I was so lucky.
Dang, dude.
Right.
But Art also kind of got electrocuted when this happened, too.
Yes.
But it worked. He did cut the power.
He cut the power, and we find out later he cut, like, everyone.
The whole neighborhood is out.
Yes, right.
Because Ricky has, like, invited all his buds over.
Yes.
And he ordered the pizza man, and, like...
Pizza dude.
They're ready for something to go crazy tonight.
Uh-huh. He invites all of his friends over like he did with his girlfriend. Like, hey, no, you got to be here. It's gonna be live.
Yeah, dude. And like, he sees Rumsfeld on the roof with this AK, and he's just like, "Hey, what are you doing with that gun, Mr. Rumsfeld?" Like, just like, I love Ricky's. He's so upfront about all his intentions.
Right.
He's teasing everyone. Like, he's teasing Mr. Rumsfeld. He's flirting with his wife. He's like, hey, this is my friend. We came to see all the show go down. You know, like, we know you guys are going to fuck shit up. It's essentially what he's saying.
I know.
And we're here to watch it.
And the friend is played by Nikki Cott.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was like sitting there like, because I mean, I recognized him previously, another viewing of it, and I always kind of told myself that couldn't be him. And no, it was him. He was just really young, and he's credited as Nick Cott.
Ah, Nick Cott.
Yeah.
I always find it weird when people have credits that change throughout their career.
Me too.
It's very strange.
It happened with Michael J. Fox. He was Michael Fox for a while.
Yeah, because
There was like a Michael T or something.
Yeah, his real middle initial was like taken or some crap like that. So yeah, so he just chose J at random.
Right.
I think it was when he joined the guild, he had to have that name.
And that could have been what happened with Nicky Cott too. Maybe he wasn't in union yet.
Yeah, that had to be it.
Right.
But, so yeah, the whole neighborhood's out of power now.
Yep.
Because of this idiot.
Right.
Rumsfeld, like when he's being teased by Ricky, like falls off the roof and he fires his gun into his own car.
I mean, like he's up
He's
there.
got live rounds in this thing.
And he's at one point like there's this great shot of like Bruce Dern in his outfit with his gun, and he's up against like the aerial.
Yeah.
And when you hear Ricky go, "Hey, Rumsfeld," he like slips,
He stumbles, like oh, rolls down the roof like Clark Griswold.
It is, yes, yes, and he does a full gainer off the roof on the ground. I mean, like this is another thing where you'd be injured.
Yeah, big time, because he doesn't like grab the gutter or break his fall. He just rolls and splat. Like it's rough.
Yes.
And he's like on the roof with his walkie-talkie, like, and Ray and Art have the other walkie-talkie, and he's like, all right, Red Rover, send Ray on over.
Yes.
Like some kind of code. You're saying his first name, you know?
I know.
And he seems so pleased. He like looks up and we see them like jump the fence out in the distance, and he's like just, oh yeah, this mission is going great, you know? Like he is so excited.
And using code for your transmissions. Red Rover, let Ray go on over is not any kind of disguise.
It's not secret at all, dude.
No, that means someone's jumping a fence.
Exactly. and he does the same thing for Art, and Art jumps over, and he's just like, yes. He's so happy to be like commanding a mission.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah.
So good.
'Cause he hasn't done it in a while.
Yeah, so they get into the house and they're in the backyard. They're digging in the backyard, and they can't find anything. They must have been digging for hours.
Yes, and you can see that like Ray's doing all the work.
Yeah, Art's just standing there kind of sweating just because he's outside. And he's like complaining, like,
Yes.
hey, you know, maybe we should go inside, you know, see if anything's in there. Maybe they got something in the fridge.
Maybe they got some cold beer.
Yeah.
And yeah, and they end
His
up going...
intentions are not hidden very well. This man.
No, this guy is very selfish. And I mean, like, they decide to try to like open the back door using the credit card trick, which
it's a deadbolt.
I've never. Thank you, because I was wondering myself when I was a kid, on how does that work in any scenario?
So the only way it works is if you can get the credit card to be on the angle of the lock and like slide it back, like because the pressure will push down on the angle and slide it backwards.
Okay.
But it's not going to happen with this kind of a lock.
No.
There's no way.
Because I mean, like, if you bolt a Schlage, that's it.
Yeah, this thing's solid.
It's like a vault. I mean, no one can kick it through. So how is a credit card going to unbolt it?
Ray pulls one out and like starts to do it. Art's like, how'd you learn how to do this? He's like, I've never done it.
Right.
And he like sticks it in and the card snaps in half. And I'm like, good.
Uh-huh.
You don't go in their house.
I know. And then he just throws it on the ground.
Yeah.
He does not care. Like, I mean, like if anybody was like, you know, investigating this, you know, was breaking it, someone broke into my house. Okay, well, let me go in the backyard and see if there's anything suspicious.
I know, right?
Oh, look, there's someone's credit card.
There's Ray Peterson on it. Our crazy neighbor.
I know. Right.
And the card breaks and Art's like, oh, that store sucks anyway. You know?
Yes.
Pretty good. And then Ray breaks the window. Like, I'm just breaking in.
Yeah, yeah.
Forceful entry.
Yep. This is now a crime.
Big time.
And they go in there and they start going through the basement, and they see this gigantic furnace. It's like an industrial grade.
Huge. Iron.
Yes.
Huge, man. And they're like, why do they have a furnace like this down here? This is huge, This is ancient.
Right.
And so it's suspicious, and it has a thermometer on it that goes up to 5,000 degrees.
Right. And there's all this like additional wiring there.
Yeah, like batteries are hooked up to it and everything, some equipment. It's just very strange.
Right.
You wouldn't expect to see this in this neighborhood, I guess.
Yeah, just in a person's house, they wouldn't have this.
Yeah, this is a normal suburban home. Right?
So then they start digging up the floor.
Yeah, because they think, oh my God, they took Walter down here, killed him, and buried him in the basement.
That is one hell of a leap to make.
Did they even see, like, fresh dirt or anything?
No. That's the thing, like, because when they start digging in the floor, I mean, like, there must have been a floor there.
I guess not. I don't know.
Other than that, or they just pulled up tiles and there was dirt under there? I mean, so they're, like, messing with the house's foundation now?
Yeah, there's nothing there. It's just dirt.
Oh, my God.
I thought this was a new modern home.
It was. I mean, it looked like the same, like, external. I mean, the exteriors of it was the same as everybody else's. It was just in, like, it was dilapidated.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe, like, when the Klopex came in, they did dig up the basement a little when they put the furnace in or something.
Yeah.
So, like, now they're suspicious. Like, well, the basement needs a floor. Why is it like this? They buried him here. That's what happened.
I see.
That's probably the leap they took.
Yes.
And so they start digging there, and they get pretty deep. At one point, Tom Hanks is about 5 feet down.
Yeah.
And it's like they've hit the water level.
Right.
Like there's water in the hole, and it's mud and disgusting. They're going way down.
And he hits some metal with his shovel, and he thinks, "Oh my God, we found it!
It's a crypt.
It's a crypt. They buried him in a crypt." No, they didn't.
No, you're probably hitting pipes.
Yes.
Or something.
But he just continues digging.
He do they have a pickaxe here or something? Or has he just got
It's just
the
a shovel.
Okay.
Yeah.
But he's like just going. He's like digging it hard and deep.
Right.
And it's just, guys, what are you doing?
And so Art goes outside, and he first gets on the walkie-talkie to Rumsfeld and says, "We found Walter."
Yeah.
He then goes outside, and a car pulls up. It's nighttime now. And the car goes to the end of the cul-de-sac, and it goes to Walter's house. The car opens up. Out comes Walter.
Yep. Yeah. He's not dead.
He's not dead. And
I guess it's his sister is driving him home from the hospital.
Right. Well, some family member drove him home,
Yeah.
and they, brought him home from the hospital. And we'll find this out later. And Art realizes, oh my God, if that's Walter, then what did Ray find? So he goes down back into the basement, and like Ray is screaming, says, "Oh my God, Art, I hit the gas. You got to get out of there."
Yeah.
And Art comes running out, and the house explodes like a massive,
it's
explosion.
crazy,
Right.
dude. And right before Walter arrived home, we saw the Klopex drive back home,
that's
right?
Uh-huh.
And they stop and see that there's stuff happening in their basement, and they turn around and leave.
Yes.
And you're like, okay, so that was a close call. We almost got caught. But where are they going? They didn't come in and stop them. They left. And then right before the house explodes, we saw Walter come home, but we also see the Klopex arrive back home with the police.
Yes.
Because they're people. Right? Yes. There's someone in my house. Get the cops.
Right. It's the right move.
It is.
And
but then the house explodes then.
The house explodes, and there's this great moment where that turret that had exploded with the big lightning rod on it comes down and goes into the cop car's hood.
Yeah, it just impales it.
Yes, it's great.
Dude. And Art had escaped at this point, but Ray was in the building still.
Yes.
And he stumbles out the front door, all tattered and bruised, barely alive.
Half his hair is gone.
Yeah, and it's Tom Hanks looking like he's about dead.
Yep.
But it's funny because it's Tom Hanks, right?
Right.
And his physical delivery here is great. He stumbles out on his feet, and he walks down the steps at the front of the porch, and he kind of slides down them on his heels.
That's
which
a
is
great effect.
pretty great.
Yes.
And then he walks into the yard, and Art runs up to him. But the whole front porch collapses.
Yeah.
Like a Buster Keaton movie.
Yes, right.
Tom Hanks really went out there to do this.
I know.
Because this is an unbroken cut.
I don't know how he managed to like not only get down those rickety stairs, but then to slide down them in that effect.
Pretty good.
It was just really some fancy footwork.
Pretty good.
Yep.
And so like the house exploded, the Klopeks are here, and everyone has just witnessed what happened.
Yes, and now the place we cut to like there's just it's a bunch of firemen, around and all kinds of other cops, and they've cordoned everything off with police tape, and at this point Carol comes home, and she drives up and she parks her car, she gets out, and she walks over to where the police area is, and they're like telling, "Ma'am, you can't go through." And I love when Ricky goes, "Well, no, I can vouch for her. This is Mrs. Peterson."
Yeah.
And while the cops are distracted, corralling Ricky and his friends, Carol gets in there. She finds Ray, who's being interrogated by Rance Howard.
Yeah.
And and Rance Howard has this great thing where he's like listing off all of Ray's crimes, destruction of private property, destruction of public property, and that poor old man says he's got a ransom note, says you stole his dog.
Yeah, because he just wrote, "I have your dog."
I have your dog, right?
And when he's writing the note, he starts to write like, "Hey, we were worried about you, so we broke in, we found Queenie," and he like scratches out, pulls out a new piece of paper. "I have your dog." Not a good move, Ray. I do love when Carol finally finds Ray. The first thing he says to her is, "You cut your hair."
Yeah.
I like it. What a sweet guy.
Yeah.
He's a little crazy, but he's a good guy. He's a good husband.
He is. And after he listens to all the charges that he's facing, he just like very slowly looks back at Carol and goes, "I really do like your hair, honey."
Yeah.
And she gives this great smile like she just loves him.
Yep. You're an idiot,
Yes,
but I love you.
That's right. You're my idiot.
And then Art is like harping on about, he's talking to the cops. He's like, "They've got dead bodies in there. You got to go in there. We got to get it. We know something's up here."
Uh-huh.
He just won't shut up. He's like, "Ray, tell him. Come on, Ray, tell him what we found."
I can't believe he's still on about like this. I mean, and
I know.
he just like he will not quit, and this is when Ray loses it, and he says he runs over there, "Shut up, Art, shut up!" And he starts going on this
God, it's
great
so
rant
good
about like how the Klopeks, it's not them, it's us.
Yeah. I wrote it down if you want to,
Yes,
if I can
please.
indulge you here.
Uh-huh.
But Ray, like, as Tom Hanks gets up and is like shouting, it's screaming Tom Hanks, "God, you don't know when to quit, do you? I'm a shell of a man because of you. They didn't do anything to us. They kept to themselves. Yeah, because they're next to crazy people like us. We're just like Skip. We're suspicious and paranoid. We're the lunatics. Us. It's not them."
Amazing. Yes.
It's so good.
I know.
And it's the best part of the movie. I mean, it's my favorite part of the movie when he finally realizes, God, we're the assholes.
And when he picks up the grass at one point, people who mowed their lawn for the 800th time and then snapped.
It's so good.
And while he's doing all this screaming and yelling, like there's this hose in the background that is like, just trying to put out the Klopeks fire.
Uh-huh.
And there's all kinds of other just like kind of background noise that's not muted. It's just going on. He's the only one talking in the whole neighborhood at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that part. They just let him do it.
Yep, it's good. And like, he's right. We're these privileged people that moved away from anything that might be a little scary to us, to get away from all this crap, and it's turned us into lunatics.
Yes.
Because we don't live in a real world. We live in this fake environment that we created for ourselves. I love the message here. It's white flight, like, distilled down to its core, right?
That's right.
It's bullshit.
Yep. And at this point, after Ray like kind of goes after Art physically, he's like trying to choke him at one point, and Art bites the splint on his finger.
Oh my God, yeah. And this is my favorite comedic moment of Hanks too, because like he's like tussling with Art, and he's like so overwhelmed. Like once he gets loose from Art, he's like, "I've been blown up. Take me to the hospital. I'm sick." And he throws himself onto a stretcher and just like flops there for a second. But no one's doing anything. So he like gets up and grabs the stretcher and like pushes it into this ambulance and then jumps back onto the stretcher.
It's like, it's so fluid too.
Yeah.
I mean, he picks up this pretty heavy gurney and like just rams it into the back. And then in one motion gets on top of it.
Yeah, he just flops there like a
Right.
toddler.
It's great.
It's so good. And I love the line, "I've been blown up."
Take me to the hospital. I'm sick.
Yeah, it's so good.
Carol walks over and she's trying to calm me. He's like, honey, I'll just follow the ambulance then. I'll find out where hospital you're going to.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks, Carol. And they close the door. And now, okay, we're at the ending now. And
This is where the movie should have stopped.
that's right. So the Klopeks have won. You know?
Yeah, because they were innocent.
Exactly. Even if Art, Ray, and Rumsfeld don't go to jail for this, the Klopeks would still have an airtight lawsuit against them. You know, it's over.
Yep.
But then, when Ray throws himself into the ambulance, which is still behind police tape surrounded by cops and firefighters, Dr. Klopek quietly goes into the ambulance to talk to him. Ray is very apologetic about everything, and after he's done talking, Dr. Klopek decides in this moment to reveal that he is a psychotic murderer, and he killed the Naps.
Yeah.
He then gets out this giant Victorian syringe and attempts to incapacitate and then decapitate Ray right there in the van where a cop could bust him in the act at any moment. And if that wasn't bad enough, Hans has commandeered the ambulance. And after Dr. Klopek gives him the signal, Hans gives Ray this evil smile and steps on the gas. So now they're flying through the neighborhood in a high-speed getaway in full view of the authorities, and Hans crashes the van into Art's house, at which point the gurney carrying Ray and Dr. Klopek flies out into the street, and they speed along with the two men struggling on top of it, eventually crashing into the side of a car. And when they fall off the gurney, Ray slams Dr. Klopek against the car in a citizen's arrest and starts yelling about to Carol and everybody else about how the Klopeks admitted it. They murdered the Naps. And Ricky then pulls up a blanket from the open car trunk, revealing to everyone that this is the Klopeks Pontiac, and it's full of decayed human skeletons. You were right to suspect your neighbors of wrongdoing. All your fears about Satanism are justified. You just said something before I started this rant about like how meaningful Tom Hanks's speech was, and how it perfectly distilled the concept of like white people fleeing the city after World War II. I know that this was not Joe Dante's intent. I've read and seen interviews with him, and it's obvious he doesn't think this way. He just wanted to make a comedy about living in the suburbs. But like, I think a better ending would have been to like make Ray. If Ray, Art, and Rumsfeld were wrong about spying on their neighbors, like if that was the ending that they tried to make it. And then the Klopeks are revealed as very generous, forgiving people who, like, even though they be within their rights, they decide in the end not to press charges.
Exactly.
And then because Dr. Klopek is a teacher, they're given like temporary university housing, and while the neighbors build them a new place on the same land, and everyone learns to live with one another.
Great.
Yeah.
I would love it.
Right.
Perfect ending.
But yeah, that's just not how it goes.
I would have even just been happy with, I'm blown up, take me to the hospital, and Carrie Fisher is like, oh, okay, Ray, I'll see you there.
Okay.
I would have been happy with that.
Okay.
Just end it there. But your ending I like better.
Thank you.
But what they have here in this movie is awful.
Yes.
It makes no sense. It comes from left field. It's supposed to be a surprise twist, but it makes everything that just happened worthless. It ruins it. It doesn't ruin the whole movie, but the ending, it's the worst ending I've ever seen.
I know. I know.
It's horrible.
I mean, Dr. Klopek choosing this moment to do this.
Yes. It makes no sense for any character what happens here.
Yeah. Yeah.
In front of the... You already went over it. Like,
Right.
it's atrocious.
I know.
I can't believe it got made.
Right.
Honestly, like, how many people saw this script and were like, didn't say like, wait a minute, that makes no sense.
Well, apparently there were other endings.
Okay.
And they all like tested badly.
Okay.
And like this was the one people wanted.
Oh, well, that sucks.
I know.
People are idiots.
Yes. Like the people in the 80s said, "Oh yeah, this is it."
Yeah, okay, Satanism is really bad.
Yes.
We can't make it look like it doesn't exist or it's just all paranoia. No, it was true the whole time.
Man, I'm I knew when I was a kid, I think you and I talked off the air when we first saw this movie that like this was dumb.
Yeah.
We didn't exactly know why, like the underlying stupidity of it.
Yeah.
But we just knew that it didn't make sense.
I've hated this ending since the first time I've seen the movie.
Right.
And I remember it being one of the first times I hated an ending to a movie.
Right.
Like, wait, it's possible not to like the way a movie ended.
Yes.
And it's so weird because the movie is excellent up until this point. Like, they did like the best Olympics routine you could do for a dark comedy, and they botched the landing, broke their ankle on the dismount, and they didn't stick it out. No, the bone came straight out and into the trunk of the Pontiac apparently. So it does cut now to Art interviewing with the local news, which is kind of funny.
It is.
Because he's ranting about, these psychos, dude, our message as suburbanites is we're not going to take it anymore. We're done.
We're out to get him.
Yeah, we're coming after him. Like he's so oppressed, right?
Yes. And that's what the movie, you're supposed to agree with him. I mean, you're supposed to like think he's kind of a jerk and kind of an idiot, but in the end, he nabbed the bad guy.
Like I feel like the intent of this scene though is to come off sarcastically. Like I don't think it is trying to justify that being in the suburbs is the best choice you can make or anything. I think it's trying to do what we just saw, the complete opposite of it.
Right.
It's trying to go back once again to look at these suburban idiots.
Yes.
But you just told me they weren't idiots. So it doesn't match up.
I don't know what to make of the action that the things we saw, nor the intent of the filmmakers.
Yeah.
It's really hard, and I mean, like I said earlier with Joe Dante, I mean, he's a good guy. I've seen, I know he's made great movies and he's done cool things. So it's just like I can't believe he botched this badly.
It was the test screening that ruined it.
I know.
Come on, listen to your gut.
Right.
Dude.
I did watch an alternate ending on the DVD.
What was it?
It was similar to this, except like Dr. Klopek and Ruben are like doing a perp walk, and they're up against the car, well, being like frisked and everything by Rance Howard and Franklin Ajay, and he does an explanation of his insanity.
Oh, well,
And
that sucks.
It's
too.
not good. It's pretty bad.
So
stuff.
it sounds like every ending involves them being the bad guys.
Yes.
Sucks.
I know, and this was the one that the test audience said was the best one.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
So I mean, the movie's got like another minute left still. Like we get Carol asking Ray what he's gonna do now, and he's like, "Well, I want to go up to the lake."
Yeah.
Okay. If I was Carol, I'd be fucking pissed. Like even before he said that, I would not. Even if you were blowing up, I'd be raging mad at you.
Agreed, dude. Agreed.
Like, I don't care if you like my hair. You forced me to leave the house, and you blew up the neighborhood.
I wish, I did something that no one could see, but I reacted to Scott's disgust with my head in my hands because, yes, you're right. This is outrageous. This is divorce material. It's hard to come back from that. Even if it turns out he was justified and he unmasked a family of murderers.
God. What I know.
The
it's
way
like,
he did
you
it.
saved the neighborhood. Let's go to the lake, honey.
Man.
Yeah.
Man.
No, I don't like it. It just sucks. It's out of character.
Right.
Carol is not like that.
Carol would be incensed at her husband's behavior.
And then we mentioned Art's house was crashed into by the ambulance. Now Art's wife comes home and we get a big laugh about that. Oh, my wife's home. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
And then Ricky spikes the camera and says, I love this street.
Yeah. Yeah.
With a pizza in his hand because this is totally tubular.
Dude, you notice how he's carrying this slice?
It's like in his palm.
It's in his palm.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a shop rag. The way he's just like, and I've never seen anyone eat a slice like that before.
Yeah. It's like Bruce Dern was carrying the brownies.
I know, right?
You don't hold pizza like that. And God, I hate the spike.
Right.
I hate breaking the fourth wall at the end of this film. Man, this ending is just atrocious.
It is. It's bad. God, I love this street.
Oh my God. Dude.
Yes, and we pull back and we have the repeat of the opening shot. Now it's like
we leave Google Maps, we go back into space.
So we go back into space, right?
Yeah.
And if you look close, you can see that I think this is based in like the Chicago suburbs.
Okay.
Because when they pull back and they're like, looking at the map of America, it's coming from like the upper Midwest, slightly just, maybe, like in that same area. So either this is Minneapolis or Chicago. It's tough to say where the actual vanishing point
I'm trying to think, maybe this could be part of like the Christopher Columbus verse or something, the John Hughes verse somewhere out there.
Oh, the Chris Columbus verse.
Why do I always compare him to this like crazy Italian man?
I know. You for whatever reason can't get that right. You're
I
always mentioning
always say
the Explorer.
Michael Myers instead of Mike Myers.
You do, right?
I can't help it. Thomas Hanks. Yeah, so that's the end of the movie, Dave. Do you have anything else?
A couple things. Carrie Fisher wears a swatch in this movie.
Okay.
You see it when she knocks on the door when Ray and Art are in the basement.
It's not a Zodiac watch?
It's not. No, it's not a Zodiac. This is an actual like a really cool gray swatch.
Okay.
Which I really liked seeing. I notice 80s clothes quite a bit when I watch 80s movies.
I like her outfits in this movie. Like she's in her like mom phase.
Yeah,
it's great.
She looks good. And the other thing was I did discover that movie. It's Race with the Devil, everybody, from 1975. Yes.
Race with the Devil.
Right. Peter Fonda and Warren Oates, they see they're in a Texas town and then they suspect that there's Satanism going on. And from what we saw in this film, there is.
All right, so would you recommend The Burbs?
Yes, I will recommend The Burbs, even though, as we talked about how bad the ending is, it's still an entertaining ride.
Yeah, I agree. It's worth the trip.
Yeah.
Right? You get excellent performances from all the characters. Like, it's very funny. It's unique.
Yeah.
It's like, I've never seen any other movie like it.
Right.
And the ending doesn't ruin it. Like, it's not a good ending, but the whole trip to the ending is worth it.
Yes, everything that came before it isn't like, fully affected by it. Just the ending's not good.
And I do like watching Henry Gibson try to murder Tom Hanks. That is entertaining,
know, right?
But just from a storytelling aspect, no.
Right.
We can't do this.
And I mean, I did like also his delivery of that sinister dialogue. It was very good.
Yeah, because it's Henry Gibson.
Right.
So, all right, so that wraps things up. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to the show anywhere you get your podcasts. Rate it and review it, and most of all, share it. It gets more dudes listening to the dudes, and you can go to dudesonmovies.com and find anything you need right there.
Yep, and we're on Facebook, Blue Sky, TikTok, and Instagram. Look for Dudes on Movies, and our email address is dudesonmovies@gmail.com.
That's right. And Dave, we have a question of the week. What is the question of the week?
What are the best movies with the worst endings?
There we go. Good one. And stay tuned next week when we discuss 1965's The Collector, directed by William Wyler and starring Samantha Eggar and Terrence Stamp. So until next week, I'm your dude Scott.
I'm your dude Dave.
And we'll see you next time.